Welcome back to the JJKN 3x3, where the elite come to compete podcast. My name is Jason Newsham. I am the president of JJKN 3x3 and the host of the podcast. We've got a great show lined up today. We are excited to bring on another member of the U.S. basketball team who represented the U.S. on several occasions, have won 2 gold medals, 3 tournament championships, and was the MVP of the 2018 USA Basketball 3x3 National Championship. And of course, I am talking about Princeton Tiger grad JUN Maddox. We'll be bringing Kareem on, talking to him about his experiences, as well as discussing a little bit of our Valley Showdown coming up on June 30th. You're listening to Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast here on JJKN 3x3, brought to you by Jolt Credit Union. We'll be right back. JJKN 3x3 thanks our partners, including Jolt Credit Union, Millar's Appliances, OCS, Total Kidney Care, Tan Consulting, and Timothy's Fine Cigars. Mark your calendars for Saturday, July 23rd, as JJKN 3x3 will bring its non-stop, fast-paced action to the city of Midland and Midland Dow High School. Divisions are for grades 5th all the way through varsity and includes boys and girls divisions. Don't miss out on your opportunity. For more information or to register, visit jjkn3x3.com. And remember, JJKN 3x3 is where the elite come to compete. And welcome back to the JJKN 3x3, where the elite come to compete podcast. We're going to the phone line here in the Jolt Credit Union studio, and we are going to talk with Team USA member, a champion of 3 gold medals, 2 tournament championships, as well as an MVP. Of course, I am talking about JUN Maddox. Kareem, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, Kareem, you have a long history of basketball. You graduated from Princeton in 2011. You made a little tournament run there. You know, tell me a little bit about how you transformed from the 5-on-5 game professionally to where you're at with the 3x3 business.
Yeah, so I played my last year overseas in Poland in the 2016-2017 season, and I kind of, I played overseas before that, and then kind of retired for a while, then came back to it. And then when I got back in 2017, a few things had happened, one of which was they announced 3x3 was an Olympic sport, and 3x3 is something I had experience with before. I played at the Nationals in, I think, 2015, and my friends were the current U.S. national team. So from there, I just kind of jumped onto that team, and we got onto the professional tour, which is the FIBA 3x3 World Tour and Challenger Circuit. So, after I did that, I kind of at some point decided that I didn't want to go back overseas, and I was really happy with the job that I got in kind of October of 2017, which was as an audio producer at a company called Gimlet, which ultimately got bought by Spotify. So,
okay.
So it was a combination of things that ended up in me playing 3x3 professionally.
Now, when you got, into the 3x3, what was your experience playing, maybe some other 3-on-3 type tournaments back, in your earlier playing days? Did you have some experience before so you were able to compare what the FIBA 3x3 was all about?
Yeah, I started playing in about 2010, just more informally, and went to different tournaments, not all FIBA 3x3 rules as you see them today, but a variety of tournaments. The Nike LA one, there was a Mountain Dew circuit of tournaments that was played, so things like that. And I had been doing that since about 2010 through a mentor of mine and a big basketball player and fan is a guy named John Rogers. So I had experience before I ultimately made the leap to the Pro Tour.
Now, we're trying to grow the game of 3x3 here in the United States, and I think it's slowly catching on. But, when you go overseas and you're in Malaysia and any of those countries, it's pretty big over there.
Yeah, it's huge. I think there's a lot of professional leagues. Like, there's one in Japan. There's one was played. I'm not sure the current state of it in Russia. It's called the United League. I believe that there are some other leagues in some other the countries over in Asia. So I think the sport is really big. And, there's been a tournament in Serbia. I think there's a really built-out infrastructure for 3x3 basketball. So it's definitely, we're a little behind in the United States as far as popularity and energy behind it, but I think part of our mission, is to grow it here because it's a really, really good game, and I think it's really captivating once you see it.
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, you don't have to come from a Power 5 school, to play 3x3. I mean, if you got a good shooter, you got some defenders, you got some good length, because the game itself is a little different, and I think that is attractive. So from an option standpoint for players that may not be coming from a Power 5, that their playing career may not be over.
Yeah, I think that's somewhat been the case in Europe for a long time, and in fact, I would say some of the most successful 5-on-5 players in Europe actually don't come from Power 5 conferences because, I think you're used to a level of, I don't even know, professionalism is not the right word, but there's a level of maybe perks and treatment that you begin to expect at, high major Division I schools, that when you get overseas, it doesn't meet the same standards.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So I think guys who come from mid-major or low-major, even Division II, III schools, whatever, there's a lot of them that end up having really good, really long careers overseas playing 5-on-5, and I think it is a fair comparison to make to 3x3, because what we can offer with 3x3 is, especially with our program, for instance, 3x3 DAO, is a model by which we can. It makes sense. It makes dollars and cents for guys to play professional 3x3, where you don't have to go to wherever for 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year to play on a one professional 5-on-5 team. You can play on a professional team that's based in the U.S. and travel for tournaments as necessary, which, because 3x3 tournaments happen over 2 days.
Right.
So but currently there's no model that exists for that. There's no one paying a salary in the United States for guys to have that option or to be able to make that decision. So that's what we're trying to create, and I think that will contribute to the growth of the game. Yeah.
Did you run in, coming into the team and being part of, Team USA and representing USA basketball, was there, I guess, a level of maybe resistance because it's not traditional?
Not for me. I mean, I would say not for my team, because it's basketball, and if you like to play, you like to play, and you like to play at a high level. That's
Amen.
What's being offered. And so, there's also, all of this is just a bet on the sport, right? That it will continue to grow, and that kind of being at the forefront of it will mean something one day. I mean, it means something now. It's been a significant part of my journey. It's added a lot to my life, but in the sense that what we're building now is the very beginning of what could be potentially a legacy. We don't know.
Right.
But part of that depends on how much the sport grows, is also appealing and exciting.
Well, tell me a little bit about, you were in Miami last year, and that was the first, one of the first major FIBA tournaments, if I'm not mistaken, down in Miami for the AmeriCup. You ended up getting the gold medal down there. You said earlier before we went on that the crowds were good. It was kind of a festival type event. Was that something that you really enjoyed playing on your home soil?
Yeah, it was great, and I think there it was evident that people aren't familiar with it in the United States so much, but it's easy to understand quickly because everyone's played 3x3. So yeah, down in Miami was great. I mean, the event was well run. It was competitive. There's some really good teams in North and South America, between Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic is on the rise. Brazil has always been very good. So, the Jamaican team we played, I think, in the quarterfinals was was really strong. They're really, really good basketball players. And so, I think that it was a competitive tournament. It was a ton of fun. We were happy to win it. It's really, I think, promising things for the future of 3x3 in the USA, including, Charlie Brown, who played a heck of a tournament, and is currently on the Philadelphia 76ers. So,
not a bad transformation.
yeah, exactly. And so I think that, that is eye-opening. And it's just little things like that, like little wins that I think over the course of the next 10 years will contribute to this, being a really big deal.
We are talking with JUN Maddox, a member of USA Basketball, here on the Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast. We'll be right back talking to Kareem a little bit more about his experiences and just talking a little bit more basketball in general. We'll be right back here in the Jolt Credit Union studio.
Do something good? Get rewarded. At Jolt Credit Union, get rewarded for doing what you already do. Our free Kasasa Cashback checking account rewards you 2.5% cash back and refunds up to $25 a month on ATM withdrawal fees. Jolt Credit Union. Like you, we go all in. Sign up for free at joltcu.com. Qualifications, rules, and limitations apply. Rates, rewards, and restrictions may vary by account. Contact Jolt Credit Union for details. Federally insured by NCUA.
And welcome back to the JJKN 3x3, Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast here in the studio of Jolt Credit Union. We are on the line with JUN Maddox. Now, Kareem, before we went to break, you mentioned the Princeton 3x3 DAO as something that you guys are starting to put together that makes sense, dollars and cents, as you said it. Explain to the listeners a little bit about what that is and maybe how they can get involved.
Yeah, totally. So the Princeton 3x3 DAO, we see as a community that's basically trying to win a FIBA 3x3 World Championship together. So at a high level, it's the first organization dedicated to building winning teams on the FIBA 3x3 World Tour. So currently, as it is today, that doesn't really exist. So we're trying to change that. And in short, I think the idea, there's a bunch of avenues by which this kind of idea crystallized for us. But one is which it revolves around this idea of Web3 and your ability to build decentralized communities. So DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And, as an example of how we're planning to build this organization up through the community is, we began our DAO, which materially was like a Discord page, a website, and some writing about what we're trying to build that we published on Substack and on this other platform called mirror.xyz. And it kind of explains the whole big idea and where we see opportunities to build this franchise and what this franchise ultimately looks like, not just now, but in 10 years from now. So as an example, we opened up our Discord page, introduced some people to what we're doing, via other channels, social media, etc. And we got inbound, like a bunch of people who were interested in what we're trying to build based on what they had read. And one of those people was a basketball player named McKenna she played at Princeton undergraduate, was doing a graduate year and playing at the University of Hawaii. And it was cool because she's a marketing grad student, and one of the things we need as an organization is like PR, media relations, things like that. And so she effectively raised her hand to say, hey, you guys are having this training camp where you're going to build a program. No one knows about it. A press release might be a good idea. And we said, you're absolutely right. Would you write it for us? And so there is like the beginning of our brand and media arm of a professional basketball organization, in the same way that the Lakers or the Sixers or whatever have a PR department. We're just building ours up through the community. And ultimately, this is going to culminate in a token sale in which people can actually buy in. They can purchase a token and genuinely be a part of this franchise and help to build it in the way that, McKenna did. But, we're thinking across like, well, what else does a professional franchise need? You need coaches, you need a front office, you need player development. You need basketball operations, as we're trying, to field 2 teams that are flying all around the world, and get enough practice time and actually have success. So it's kind of a lot, but I hope that was somewhat enlightening.
No, it is, and if somebody gets involved and becomes, do they become, but they buy a coin, is it like ownership? Is there, is there going to be like a board? I mean, and, when you're looking at it, the big picture, do you see this becoming more of a league maybe here in the U.S., so to speak, and then, kind of having those champions be the team that represents what you're trying to build, or is it just for the Princeton squad?
No, exactly. So one of the first things we did as an organization was split up into 2 teams, right? Because I think what makes us like special and specific is that we're not trying to boil the ocean. We're trying to have really good teams on the professional FIBA 3x3 World Tour. So starting off with 2 teams felt like the right thing to do, and building those teams and operating them across, tournaments that happen all over the world is worthy of having an organization to do, right? Like
right.
To this point, it's been kind of me and my teammates, or my teammates and I just trying to make it happen, and just because we are also the players. But when you take a step back, we're thinking, well, how many teams could you feasibly run on the Pro Tour at once? And each team that we add that's based in the United States actually helps the United States Olympic push for making it into 2024, LA 2028 automatically. And that happens if you have enough guys playing at the highest level on the FIBA 3x3 World Tour. So that's kind of like our mission. With regards to like other leagues and stuff, I think what we're doing is building teams that win, right? So while we don't have to create a league ourselves, again, this is a bet on the sport. If a viable league does crop up in the United States, well, say in 5 years from now, we're operating 4 teams. Well, we have 4 teams that we can also enter into that league, or any of the already existing leagues. If we have 4 teams, we could send one to the United League in, Russia. Obviously we can't do that right now, nor
Right.
we want to.
Yes.
But say the Japanese league, right? We can send one team there to play in that. If a domestic league pops up, we can add a team there. And so while our teams are built for the FIBA World Tour, as the sport becomes more viable and domestic leagues pop up, or even gives us the chance to take the opportunity to take advantage of the leagues that already exist across the world. So again, our mission is just to build winning teams, and so by doing our token sale and raising a treasury, we can both operate the teams that currently exist while building the DAO, so that ultimately whoever is a part of it, which could be anyone, it could be you, it could be anyone listening, raises their hand within the DAO and says, hey, I want to start a team of my own. What we're building is the infrastructure and the know-how and sharing that with the community. So by joining our community and you want to start a team of your own, what we're showing, we've been doing it for 5 years on the Pro Tour and no one else has. So we have the know-how. We're just trying to share that, let that trickle down amongst our community until the point in which someone raises their hand and says, hey, I want to be the team manager for a new team. And we're going to build it with the salary model that we've come up with over the last few years. We're going to actually offer guys X amount a month so that they don't go back overseas. They don't have to go play in, I don't know, wherever.
Right.
And so that's all. Basically, that's all what we're building towards. So, and I think we do that by proving proof of concept by having a few really good teams, 2 this year, on the FIBA 3x3 World Tour, because ultimately that is the Olympic sport that's going to be played. While the Big 3 is interesting and fun, and I think a good idea, I think that it's separate from the Olympic push. So I think we have to be very specific.
No, I think, and that's one of the things, again, that attracts me to the sport is the growing opportunities, and like you just said, I mean, I enjoy the Big 3, and they were in Detroit a couple of years ago, and you watch it, and what I see with the 3x3, especially at the FIBA level, at the world tournaments that I've watched, is the level of play is tremendous. You have to be in shape. I mean, it's not, it's a, you just don't roll up, pop out of the car and expect because you played well at the YMCA that you're going to win a tournament. I mean, it takes a lot, which is what I wanted to ask, as far as teams go, with your experience playing with different guys at different tournaments, what are the, a couple of key things if you're going to build a team or put together a team, what are a couple of things that you see as, non-negotiables that you must have, whether it's obviously chemistry is one thing, but, you don't necessarily need a 7-footer in the post. A rim protector is always nice and a rebounder is always nice, but they come in different sizes and shapes. But what would you say, with your experience with all the different guys that you've had the luxury of playing with as some non-negotiables?
Yeah, I think being able to knock down a 2-pointer, which is from the 3-point range, if people are unfamiliar, is really pretty crucial because one of the main tenets of the sport is like that the court is open, right? So there's only 6 players on it. So being able to continue to stretch the floor is important. I think, what's great about 3x3 is that I think every player has to be able to dribble, pass, and shoot. That sounds pretty simple. And you would think that most those, it makes it carry over from 5-on-5. If you can dribble, pass, and shoot, the thing is, there's a lot of 5-on players that can't do one or several of those things.
Right.
But can still be effective in 5-on-5. I think if you can't do any of those things, it makes it really hard to play with. But being able to do all 3 is the ideal situation. I think it kind of is a sport that lends itself to what we call tweeners, which is I consider myself kind of a tweener. I'm not really a 3, but not really a 4 or 5. Maybe I'm a 3.5. But I can post, but also play outside. So. Mm-hmm. I think that lends itself to 3x3, and then conditioning is a non-negotiable. You just have to be in shape. Being in shape will win or lose you games. And yeah, chemistry, of course, is. I would say that it's not a non-negotiable. You can get some cheeky wins by just being a really good collection of one-on-one players, but I think that it can tend to get you into trouble more than it helps you win. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's the top of the list of non-negotiables is being in 3x3 shape and conditioning, and just being able to dribble, pass, and shoot, as simple as that sounds.
Well, no, I think every coach in America that's listening is going to be nodding their head. Yeah, that sounds about right. If we can get players to dribble, pass, and shoot, we're going to be all right.
Yeah, exactly. There's no, a lot of. I think even in 3x3, if you have just someone who can just shoot it, they're not a good passer and they're not a good ball handler. If they play great defense, then that person can be valuable, and they have a motor and they're in really, really good shape. And they can get little, cheap offensive rebounds. They always box out. That's cool. Okay, maybe you can be a specialist in shooting, but I think it's. There's more room for that on the 5-on-5 court, where someone can sit in the corner and they really do stretch the floor, and if they do catch the ball with an open look, it's going in. That person is immensely valuable in 5-on-5, whereas they're a little bit less valuable in 3x3, I would say, because even though the 2-pointer is really valuable as compared to the 1-pointer, unless they're shooting at a ridiculous clip, I think they'll tend to be a liability potentially. So maybe that's not even the best example, but I think the idea generally that you just have to be well-rounded is true.
Well, I think the other thing, and I've mentioned this on previous shows, is you can't hide on defense either. So, that conditioning and the ability to transition. And I think the main word that I would go with is communicate. You have to communicate as a group because, you make a bucket and that team's getting the ball and, you might be out 7-8 feet away from the rebounder and he's dribbling out to the corner. It's a lot of communication, a lot of handoffs, to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And you can't hide. I mean, if you're a bad defender in 5-on-5, you're going to be a horrible defender in 3x3.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that's true. Yeah, exactly. There's nowhere to hide. And I think teams now are there's your first look on any given play is where's the mismatch.
Right.
Right. So if that's you every time because you can't slide your feet or you can't guard in the post, then that's going to be the offense's first look. And you have to do something special. I don't know, fight really hard, get around,
or sit.
Be really physical be really physical and like deny the pass so that your guy doesn't get it, so that he can then drive around you. Like, I don't know what it is, but like you basically start to put in fixes to correct something that's pretty simple. It's just like you have to be a decent, serviceable defender.
We are talking with Kareem Maddox here on the Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast, brought to you by JJK and 3x3. I just want to touch on one last thing, Kareem, before we let you go. You know, when you were at Princeton, you were part and participated with the Friends of Jacqueline Foundation, and I found that pretty impressive in being a college student and being involved with something like that. If you could just real quick tell our listeners a little bit about what that was and the experiences that you had with it.
Yeah, no, we don't want to take too much credit. I think this is something it was a foundation that our coaches identified, and what Friends of Jacqueline does is match terminally ill children to college sports teams and create like kind of a mentorship, friend, big brother type of thing, big brothers, big sisters type of thing. So we got involved because our coach, I think Sidney Johnson, came across the foundation, and we got matched up with the kids close to Princeton in, I believe it was Robbinsville, New Jersey. So pretty close. And yeah, so our guy was Christian Rogolski, Crunch we called him, and Crunch was pretty ill when we met him, but we developed this relationship with him and kind of went through the ebbs and flows of an illness, which was, I don't want to get this wrong scientifically, but I believe it's like a pediatric brain tumor. And so anyway, Crunch was our guy. He came to, I don't think we never lost a home game when he came and sat on our bench. And, it was really special. We connected, me and him, over Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like, I was a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh when I was younger, and he was currently a fan. And so that, for me, was just, it was cool to go and be a kid again. We watched movies. To this day, one of my favorite movies is How to Train Your Dragon, because we watched it with the original one, because we watched it with him. He put us on it, and it is actually a fantastic movie. And
you didn't get him hooked on Hoosiers or anything?
No. It was his world when we were there, and it was awesome. And actually, I will probably always remember when he passed away. We were on a road trip. We were playing Brown, and it was weird. We went up to Brown. I think we were undefeated in the league at that point. So this would have been like our 8th game, I believe. And, back then the Ivy League didn't have a tournament. So it was whoever won the regular season went to the tournament. Mm-hmm. So anyway, going undefeated or trying, you need to win the league, long story short. And anyway, we went up to Brown, and we didn't, know anything at this time. We were on the bus, and we get to the game, and it was just one of the worst games I've ever seen us play. And like Brown's strategy was to like leave our 2 like 3-point shooters wide open and basically like quadruple team the post, and it was like a junk plan, but they beat us, and they beat us like, I think we lost by like 10. And so there's big implications. And then, as we got on the bus to go home, we learned the news that Crunch had passed away. And so I always, and it was, I don't know, I don't think a coincidence that we, played that badly and that was happening without our knowing it. But yeah, and that was kind of our experience with Friends of Jacqueline, and it's a great foundation. And, I haven't done enough to keep in touch with what they're doing, but yeah, that was kind of, what we did, and it was cool. It was really special.
So Crunch passes away, and you lose to Brown. So now you have one loss in the conference. or in the league. And like the turning point of your season, did you guys turn it around? What were you guys able to do from that point?
Yeah, from that point, we ended up in a tie for the league, and there was no conference tournament for the winner of the league went to the tournament.
Gets the automatic berth, yeah.
Yeah, and so we ended up in I think tied at 12-2 with Harvard that year, and so we went to a one-game playoff, which we played up at Yale, and we ended up winning the league on this crazy, Doug Davis shot with like it was nuts. It was like an out of bounds play with like 2-point-something seconds left, and do the whole thing. Our crowd storms the court, and we ended up going to the tournament that year. So the year ended up being kind of that was, I think, our first Ivy League championship for Princeton in like 7 years or something. It ended up being a really the most special year in recent memory at the time for Princeton basketball.
Well, that's a great. I always love to hear stories when teams are able to make it to the big dance, and it doesn't happen often. I mean, unless you're a blue blood or a Power 5 type conference where you get 7, 8 teams in for your at-large bursts, and that's one of the things I always was impressed with the Ivy schools is when they would get to the tournament. A lot of people didn't know much about them. They just thought they were a bunch of smart guys, and they'd go out there and what would you do better than the other teams? You would execute.
Yeah, I think it was funny. We played Kentucky that year, and they had, star freshmen across the board, like they have, but we were like mostly seniors, So when materially, like, we played Kyrie that year in one of his only college games, and I think what you start to notice is that the difference between 18 and 22 is pretty big from a basketball standpoint, and that's kind of an equalizer when you have, teams that are experienced that play together, and we have our system. But I think to that year specifically too, now that I reflect on it a bit, is like how we not lost to Brown, the subsequent experiences I don't have, which I consider amongst the best of my life, which is like that one game playoff that was kind of winner takes all for potentially the last game of my college career. So it's interesting how it all kind of comes together.
Well, you had a play-in game before play-in games became popular, so that's one way to look at it. It was a 64 and 65 team, and then you guys get to play your way into the tournament and get to face Kentucky. It's not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it was a great matchup. It was almost, we lost by 2. It was a bummer, but it was, it was cool. Yeah, exactly. I forgot they added the playing games after.
Yeah.
I'm old, man. I graduated 11 years ago now, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, well, if you're old, I'm ancient, so let's not start spitting out words at people. We're not calling names here, so. We are talking with Kareem Maddox, a great basketball player, and with that story, an even greater person. I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know it's a busy time, and you guys got a lot of things going, or you have a lot of things going, and I just wanted to, thank you for your time that you gave us today here on our little JJKN 3x3 podcast, and hopefully, we'll get you back on the show later on and talk a little bit more maybe about how the Dow is growing and how the Princeton 3x3 is doing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My shameless plug is 3x3dow.xyz. Check it out. It has all the links. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's always a pleasure to meet people who discovered 3x3 organically and really fell in love with it. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll put that website there on the bottom of our screen. Make sure you check it out. If you have any other questions for Kareem, you can find him on Twitter and Instagram. And there's a generational gap. I used to call it Insta-tweeting and Snapgramming because I don't have neither one of them. But anyway, I'll put all that information up. You can reach out to Kareem if you have any questions about the Dow, or maybe just want to reach out to him and talk to him through social media. But you're listening to the Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast, brought to you by JJKN 3x3. Here in the Jolt Credit Union studio. We'll be right back after a message from one of our sponsors. Millar's Appliance is locally owned and operated, proudly serving our customers since 1938. We invite you to come down and meet the most experienced sales staff in Bay City. Our knowledgeable professionals will lend their expertise in the appliance and electronic industry when helping you choose the washer or dryer, refrigerator, freezer, oven, dishwasher, or microwave system that fits your needs. Located at 721 North Euclid Avenue in Bay City, Michigan, you can call 989-686-2661 or visit millarsappliance.com. And welcome back to the JJKN 3x3, where the elite come to compete podcast here in the Jolt Credit Union studio. Just want to say thanks. I thought it was a great show. Thanks to JUN Maddox for spending some time with us today. On June 30th, we are having a JJKN 3x3 series of games that will be played between 16U. So we've invited some rising sophomores, some rising juniors, as well as a couple of incoming freshmen to get an experience and get a taste of the 3x3 game. Looking forward to getting that talent out there and introducing the shot clock, the ball, and all the different rules that come with it. Don't forget, we have July 23rd, 3x3 tournament over in Midland at Midland Dow High School. And on Saturday, July 30th, we will be up in Arcadia at the Pleasant Valley Showdown. Looking forward again to just introducing the 3x3 game to different communities, and looking forward to both the Midland Dow tournament as well as the Arcadia tournament. Nothing beats summer than playing a little basketball outside and then having the beach a couple blocks away. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, Jason Newsham, president of JJKN 3x3 and host of the Where the Elite Come to Compete podcast. We will be talking with Damon Huffman, another member of Team USA Basketball, who has a plethora of experience. He is a Petoskey native, played at Brown, has professional experience as well as the 3x3. So looking forward to having him on the show, as well as Chuck Arnold, one of the administrators for USA Basketball. So tune into our next show. We will be back, and we will see you on the court soon.